we watched this, which you might not
Zero
have heard
Hour.
of, but
But
it was the original film that was later remade as
what? It's Airplane.
Airplane, the 1950s melodrama. And okay, so to prepare for this, last night we watched Airplane. Oh, by the way, I'm back here again.
Yeah.
Hi. I don't know when I'll be seeing Doc again.
He's your dad.
I know, but quarantine stuff.
That's
But anyway,
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm just noticing, like, it's terrible. It's the state of us because of the quarantine. I'm at the point where, like, I can't even go to the barber once this all lifts. My best bet at this point is to go across the border to Donegal, find a farmer who's shearing his sheep, and just queue up at the end of the sheep and wait my turn. Well, you only get your hair cut, like, once every so often, but, like, I have to get my hair cut once every month. Yeah, I'm not gonna pull a full, like, jarhead kind of thing and just get clippers. I'd look like Michael Stipe. It's the truth.
if you saw my video on films I suggest you watch while you're in sort of self-isolation or whatever, 0 Hour was one of the films, and when I was making the video, I was like, oh, we should watch 0 Hour, and then I'd be like, wait a sec, we should watch Airplane first, which we did last night, just to make sure that we're on the ball with all the stuff that was, copied word for word.
Now, I love Airplane. I was probably too young when I saw it. We taped it off Comedy Central way back in the day. But I used to have the DVD with all, like, the bits that were taken away. Although there was one new bit in Airplane that I'd never seen before, where the captain is looking at, like, magazines and just says whacking material. And it's like gentlemen's magazines. I was like, I've never seen that before. That must not be in the U.S. release. But,
or possibly what quality wasn't so good on the Comedy Central version.
Yeah, it's also... Yeah, but then the version that we taped, also didn't have, like, the naked breasticles.
That's true. Anyway, well,
We should also mention Airport. Because I feel like that's tangentially tied in, and we saw that recently.
yeah, we've been sort of, over the last, couple of months, every so often, just watching a 70s disaster film, not vlogging it, just, for fun for ourselves. So we've watched When Time Ran Out, Earthquake, City on Fire, we watched a while before that.
Which one was Time When It Ran Out?
It's the volcano in
Right.
We watched Airport 1, because I found my box set of all the Airport movies. And so we got a bunch more. We inherited a bunch from my parents. We're getting rid of a bunch of DVDs, several months ago. So got a big collection of disaster films to watch.
I wouldn't have pegged your parents as big 70s disaster genre fans.
But I did some reading and I discovered there's a disaster film about a roller coaster called Roller Coaster. God. There is a disaster parody that predates Airplane. It's called The Big Bus. It's about a nuclear-powered bus. I must find this. Anyway, so we watched all that.
If we fall below 35 miles an hour, the reactor will explode.
And Petya will be very annoyed.
Well, actually, nuclear power.
Anyway, most people assume that Airplane is either just a funny film by itself, or that it's or it's just a direct parody of the Airport series, because there was like 5 of them, and the Airplane came out in 1980 and basically was the final nail in the coffin of the disaster cycle. Then, however, it's not, and it never has been. Elements were lifted from the Airport films, like the bit with the girl with the heart transplant. I'm pretty sure that's from an Airport sequel, but 0 Hour was a 1952 melodrama, which I mentioned before.
It's Canadian, so it feels really exotic.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, Vancouver.
You got this guy called Ted Stryker who's got PTSD from the war, and he's he has to try and fly the plane down to the ground. It's the plot of Airplane. But the Zuckers and Jim Abrams apparently saw this when they were in their early 20s or late teens, and it predated, but they riffed it.
Do you know what this means? Mm-hmm. That Allison and the Rangoons will eventually come together to make a wildly successful parody movie of something from, like, the public domain times, because they're always riffing together.
They should.
Rangoons can call me.
So from what I've read, that's what happened. They riffed it, and then years later they wrote a parody script based on it, and it lifted, with lots of elements like lifted word for word, and then like
literally
taking like sections of dialogue and just adding one or two elements to make it funny, stuff like that. And apparently they were told that they could get past unfair use and say, it's a parody, so it'll be fine, but they didn't. They bought the rights to Airplane.
That's fantastic.
Which
Canadian come, they're like, sure, really? Sure, yeah.
And this is, and so that means Airplane is unique among these things as though, I can't speak. It's unique because it's an actual remake, not just a parody. Although apparently the Police Squad did the same thing with a couple of scripts for the serious police bits. Scripts in Police Squad they did the same trick, but with 1950s cop shows.
Jim never has a second cup at home. I was reading the trivia page for Airplane last night on IMDb, and I found out so much shit. Like, the actress from the coffee advert, which is where the line comes from, actually plays the woman in Airplane saying the line, and apparently, like, they didn't realize this just didn't come up. Like, there's so much shit we found out that, like, Peter Graves didn't want to be involved because he basically plays a pedophile. But so it was really great because I kept getting, like, one of the things about the 70s disaster movies that I'm slowly getting on to is the fact that there's always like a midlife adulterous affair. Like, and it's always that the hero guy has a terribly, like, either nagging wife, or she's adulterous as well, or, she's got mental illness issues or an alcohol problem or something, but he can't do anything even though they hate each other because her dad's really, like, either really wealthy or really powerful. You just described
the plot of Earthquake.
Because, no, but in Airplane too, or Airport too, because remember, he was in charge of, like, some big thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, is this, like, a thing? Is everyone adulterous in the 70s? I have so many questions.
Probably.
But there was no adultery in Zero Hour.
None of them. Yeah. All off screen if there was any. Though Airplane, the only adultery it had involved a horse when it was off screen.
There was also in Zero Hour a comedy Irish accent.
I think it might have been Newfoundland because he was Canadian.
But the little ventriloquist guy, he had a comedy Irish accent.
Yeah, that's
do Newfoundland people, do they sound like they're Scottish? Is that a thing?
The Newfoundland accent is sort of Irish with a twist. It's a bit like how Quebecois is like French with a twist.
We don't know anyone from there. Although, I think Sin Wicked lives in the Maritimes now.
You might.
I haven't seen him in a year. A year, like, a lot of time.
But yeah, there's some things, a lot of things from Zero Hour are word for word lifted over and repurposed slightly. But there's some stuff just baffling that it was not parodied in Airplane. Like, you get the guy with a ventriloquist glove puppet with a comedy Irish accent. You could have done a lot of stuff with that.
Aye.
You got these, like, old Canadian men talking about sports obsessively and going into very great detail about, stuff to do with sports.
And this is great. I guess you could do this back in the day before, like, 50 years before 9/11 when no one cared. They just have, like, a bottle of, like, Martin VO, like a whole, a fifth. And they're just pouring them out for each other. They're sitting there just drinking. The stewardess is like, so what do you want for dinner? They're like, oh, do you want a drink? And she's like, no, I'm gotcha. Back when, like, flying was luxurious and, like, really expensive. And people just, like, smoking on the plane, like,
The captain, cigarettes and the alcohol are a great mix. The captain looks like a really muscular, like, superhero version of Kirk Douglas.
Butt chin thing going on. And he kind of looks like someone recruited him off the street to be in the film. Like,
I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, do you want to be in the thing? And we found out that there's a guy whose nickname is Crazy Legs who plays the co-pilot. And he's actually some famous football star that, like, apparently was real famous in 1957. And that's why Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was playing the co-pilot in Airplane. That was a direct riff of some football player no one's heard of. So
it's so fun. Airplane, there's a lot of elements which, work just as a comedy. But then with time and stuff, like context like that is lost. I mean, whenever... I just figured Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in because he was in films around that time. He was in Game of Death.
Like, knew people like, hey, do you want to be in a film? Yeah, sure.
And so, they were just getting it. He was a celebrity cameo, and then they were like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if someone realized, who the celebrity cameo, who it was? And, that itself is a decent enough joke, but then the fact that it's a riff on 0 Hour having an American footballer. That's just great.
We found out that Airplane was actually Ethel Merman's last role.
We did.
Yeah.
And,
Tales from the IMDb trivia page.
In this film, in 0 Hour, you got the Robert Stack character, who's not called Rex Kramer, because Rex Kramer's name comes from the Kentucky Fried Movie, where he was Rex Kramer Danger Seeker, and I will not comment any further on his cameo in Kentucky Fried Movie.
Look it up on YouTube, but use incognito mode, you might end up on a list.
But, so the version in this, and then 0 Hour is played by Sterling Hayden, who you might recognize from Doctor Strangelove, and where he played a crazy military guy. But in this one, for much of his performance, he seems to have made the same mistake in acting, which I tend to do when I'm doing voiceovers.
He just seems like really angry that he's getting a paycheck for this. Like,
yeah,
acting.
Yeah, there's
Martha.
When I'm doing voiceovers, one of the things, because I have to rile myself up to perform, because whenever I'm doing voiceovers by myself, and it's like, unless I'm careful, I will sort of go into an unexcited, I have to read stuff, I don't like doing this, type voice, which it works pretty well for the history videos, but for Hagen type stuff it doesn't. So I have to consciously energize myself for that. And sometimes I accidentally hit on the idea that being angry and speaking fast is a performance, and it isn't. But Sterling Hayden, that's what he's doing for about half of his performance in this.
I'm so angry.
I used to be a bigger star than this.
I just love it. I love how, no one has their tie. I don't believe that anyone in the before times actually had their tie tight at any point, because you always see in the films, people with, a loosened tie to convey a thing. And I'm like, but did anyone really tie their tie, though? Really?
Looks like we picked the wrong week to... Yeah, I will restart. Looks like we picked the wrong week to quit doing vlogs.
That actually is a line. Your man's like, looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking. And I quipped, even though it's 1957 and 9 out of 10 doctors agree that smoking's fantastic, keep doing it as much as possible. Surely this won't end poorly.
It will end poorly, and don't call me Shirley.
No one said it in the thing. So.
Yes. Yeah, as a filmmaking experience, it's really weird because there's so much of it, which is the setup to jokes in Airplane.
And you're waiting. You're just waiting for the shoe to drop. Go on, do it. And they're like, right, I'll do the thing.
Yeah. I bought my copy of this. Basically, my intention was to do a video together, sort of mashing up Airplane and 0 Hour scenes. Try to get full conversations together just to show how close they were. But then I found it online that someone on YouTube had basically done that. Bastard. So there is compilations on YouTube of 0 Hour with Airplane. And give it a go. It is so odd. And
it's so fantastic because they keep doing this external shot, looking into the cockpit. And I know that this might have been the way back in the day, but it's the storm. There's one going but he can only see out but the windshield is this big. I really like that. And the toilet's massive, and there's a window. There's a porthole window in the toilet, so you could stand there and pee and look out Grand Canyon.
So Ted Stryker can look out the window and have flashbacks.
And I said, look at the size of that toilet. That's a massive airline. There's a fucking jacuzzi in there or something
And there's some bits in this where the drama is handled better in Airplane than in this. For instance, the bit where the captain, it's revealed the captain had fish, where they're discussing this sort of thing, and in Airplane, he there's some music and he looks down and you can see the fish bones.
The whole entire bone of even the tail.
Yeah, so it's obviously the constructed form of the fish is part of the joke. However, as a bit of drama, it works as a
he basically is oh, doctor, I just remembered something. What's that? I had fish too. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's how they do it in 0 Hour, and it's
and then they flash to giving him an injection, and they're don't wear it, because basically he says it's a bacterial contamination. I don't know any kind of bacteria that moves that quick. If we don't get them to a hospital in 2 hours, they'll die. So basically he's okay, I just gave you morphine that will help you fight off the effects. And I was no. That will knock him the fuck out. And then they're shocked when he gets knocked the fuck out. And I was You basically pumped him full of morphine. It's medical heroin. This'll keep you awake.
Yeah. And then when the plane comes down, airplane worked better in airplane because you had the exciting music as the plane was coming down, and you got like Robert Stack yelling on the thing, and you got like the console going like whoa. You get all that stuff. It works pretty well as editing wise. In this one, you've got the little elements, but you got no music and you got no oomph tying together in editing. So it's like a very half-hearted version. So it is pretty odd when the parody, the spectacularly celebrated comedy version 30 years later, it worked better as a film than this one did. Although there was one bit where 0 Hour worked way better than Airplane. Because in Airplane, we never find out precisely what happened to Ted Stryker's team. We know that they died, we don't know exactly how. And at the end, you've got, he's bringing the plane down through like fog, and then, like Robert Stack is like, you more than anyone know what this means. Something like that. And in 0 Hour, that gets context.
Because it opens with exposition. It opens with the mission going bad, and this exposition like, here's Ted Stryker fucking it up.
Yeah.
It doesn't say that,
but the mission goes bad because there's a thing of fog, and they have to go down to go low across the ground to keep under the radar. Unfortunately, he misjudges how far down the ground is, and so most of the planes crash. So he knows how dangerous it is to go down blind, close to the ground through fog. And it's like...
Also, it's World War II. We were having, like, this big debate over which war it could be if it was 6 years after the war. So we thought it could be 6 years after the Korean War, but it couldn't be 6 years after the end of the Vietnam War because that would have put it...
Airplane.
Yeah, that would have put it, like, about a year or two after Airplane was actually made.
Well, Airplane... But with the Airplane, I think deliberately didn't make sense.
Yeah.
I think it's still meant to be World War II.
There's a lot less racist... We were watching it, we're like, oh, it's funny, but, it's so racist.
We speak jive.
I love it. I know it's bad, and it's terrible. I love that actress.
I only noticed the Japanese guy who kills himself on the plane. That's totally James Hong, a.k.a., what do you call him, Lo Pan from Big From Little China.
Lo Pan style? Google it. It's great. It's a great video.
It is.
David Lo Pan style.
I'm still annoyed he didn't play the Ancient One in Doctor Strange, because he's like 95 and he's still going. He's still acting. Legend.
Good for him. What else? I mean, it kind of makes you, like I said before, it just kind of make you, like, wish, like, I wish I could have flown back in the day when it was all glamorous. You had to, like, fucking dress up for everything. Do you know my grandmother passed away in 2016 at the age of 96. And she was the kind of woman that literally would get dressed up nice on a Sunday to sit and phone her friends. Like, I mean, I know it'd be a big pain in the ass, but, like, I really wish, like, you could, like, kind of, like, tourist to, like, before times when, like, people dressed up for everything. Like, oh, I'm going on a flight, I better get dressed up.
Fucking planes, man.
How do they work? But it was funny. But here's the thing is, like, a lot of parts of it are really boring.
Yeah.
Like there's a span that, like, takes about, I would say, a good several minutes in film time, which is like years in real time, where, like, they're just talking about instruments and, like, testing stuff out. There's no drama whatsoever. All right, bring it to 309er. Okay, now you're gonna do the thing and then do the other thing. Tell him yes. Vancouver, yes.
Yeah.
Because the love interest, she's basically just a wife who's leaving her husband because of his mental illness, which kind of makes her the bitch, and taking their child.
To be fair, that's why Elaine was leaving an airplane as well. It just wasn't so explicitly stated.
Yeah. She's basically like, well, you're mentally ill because of, like, the war, which wasn't, your fault, so I'm taking your son and leaving. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and she's not a stewardess. The stewardess is a completely different character, and... In Airplane, the drama works way better, making her a stewardess as well. It just simplifies things, because you're wondering why the fuck this woman who's got nothing to do with the plane is put up in the front, even though she's having a fractured relationship with the pilot.
Yeah, like, here, you handle the radio.
Yeah, it's like in Airplane, she's there because she's the head stewardess.
Yeah, and here's the thing, it's like, okay, so the head stewardess, Janet, like, literally, the doctor, who is played by a British actor for reasons unknown, like,
well, because he was cast.
He's like, what's your name? And she's like, Janet. So he calls her Janet, like the entirety of the film. But Stryker keeps saying, "Stewardess, do the thing," and I kept inserting, "My name's Janet, actually," and everyone on the ground like, "Stewardess." It's Janet, but the doctor keeps calling her Janet.
Although,
and so does Ellen, the wife.
Who was the first choice to play the Doctor in Airplane? Who turned it down and later regretted it?
It was Christopher Lee. How fucking great would that have been? For fuck's sake. Just Christopher Lee looming there. It's like...
I want to tell you both good luck. We're counting on you.
And then like ominously like meow, disappearing behind the door. Of course. And don't call me Shirley. But yeah.
So yes, we saw 0 Hour.
It's good. You should watch it. If you're having some quarantines, you should watch it. It's probably on, some kind of streaming service, or it's probably on YouTube. It's probably in public domain.
No, it's not.
Just watch one of those YouTube videos that matters.
Yeah, you can watch that. But it may well be on YouTube, but not because it's got no copyrights, because no one gives a fuck about it.
I've noticed there's a lot of properties that, like, even the rights holders are like, oh, fuck it, I don't give a shit. Do you know, and I tweeted about this, that the entirety of the Mary Tyler Moore Show is up on YouTube? Just, I guess whoever owns the rights has created a channel called the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and you could just, you could just watch all 7 seasons. So if you really need to be cheered up, and the fact that, it began airing 50 years ago, if you're like a Gen Z or a millennial or even whatever Gen is under Gen Z, go watch it. It's cute and great. You can be like, wow, that's what they wore in the before times. Right.
Yes, before the world ended.
And Betty White's in it. I think Betty White might be the only person who's still alive, because...
Wasn't she really old in that, and everyone else was younger?
No. This is 1970, so she was she was young middle-aged.
Oh, okay.
Ed Asner, he died, didn't he?
No,
he's still alive.
Ed Asner's still alive.
Okay, so Ed Asner and Betty White are still alive.
Ed Asner's great on Twitter. He's like angry lefty.
What?
Yeah.
I gotta follow him. I like Ed Asner. You got spunk, kid. Really? I hate spunk.
I played Hudson in Gargoyles.
Because Mary Tyler Moore died several years ago.
Oh dear.
Well, I mean, she had a hard life. Because she had the son that I think he either died by suicide or in a car accident, and she's type 1 diabetic. And then she had some kind of like terrible tragedy as well.
Yeah.
I like Mary Tyler Moore, but she was not in 0 Hour.
No. Dana Andrews was, who was name dropped in science fiction double feature. I can't remember the line is. Dana Andrews said something, gave them the runes, and passing them used lots of skill. That's the reference to Dana Andrews. I know shit.
So what other disaster movies would you suggest to people who are bored at home and...
City on Fire was done by Mystery Science Theater.
So I've actually never seen that episode, but we watched it, and just so stupid.
Leslie Nielsen's in it.
It's great.
He's the villain. But well, he starts off as villain and he becomes heroic. But
that had adultery as well.
Yeah.
That was a fucking adult. What were you up to in the 70s? Christ.
But City on Fire, the MST3K version, I believe, is on YouTube. The full film might be on YouTube. It's basically about a city on fire because there's a big oil refinery built in the middle of this city.
Because that's such a brilliant plan.
And then it ends up on fire. That's Canadian and low budget.
What was the one where there was the boy that was Earthquake, right? Where the boy was almost electrocuted?
Yeah, it's Earthquake.
Not to be confused with Earthquake 10.0.
Which is amazing. It's the best film ever.
Where they actually were too cheap to smash a car's windshield. So they employed CGI to smash the windshield, which had to have been more expensive than paying the $50 it would have taken to call out one of the... Because there's those... I don't know if this is true in other countries, but in America at least, there are companies that you can call. Like, suppose you get a crack in your windshield driving to work, you ring them, and they will just basically come to your work, fix it in the car park, you go out and give them like $50, and they go away. It's like, that's how it goes.
10.0 Earthquake. We did a Backseat critique for that, and I mentioned it in my films to watch thing because...
It's ridiculous. The fault chases them. The fault line fucking chases them.
At one point, there's a fissure that sneaks up on someone who's walking.
I don't know how that's possible.
It's so good.
Lived through at least one earthquake that was a 3 point something in DC. No, it was great. We were out for lunch, a whole bunch of us in the office. We were coming back. We were stopped at it's interesting. No, this is an interesting story. Stop it. That we were stopped at a light, and then the light change went to go, and the woman who's driving her car juddered, and we were like, whoa, and she's like, oh gosh, I hope that wasn't a transmission. Jeez, I better get it checked out, tomorrow morning. And so we get back, and everyone's, standing outside. We're like, what happened? They were like, oh, we're in a conference call, and the earthquake knocked out the network phones. We were like, earthquake? And they were like, you didn't feel that? And then we realized that, thankfully, her transmission was fine, but it was an earthquake. I lived through it.
Earthquake 3.2.
Yeah. There's not really much else to say.
No,
I
not
keep,
really.
Like, reaching for, be like, oh, it's interesting somehow.
You might have noticed that we got like these white black bars here and
it's a different
here.
camera.
Because I have put on like this thing. It says it's old timey, but I'm not really seeing old timey. It just seems to have added the bars, created artificial widescreen. So that's why that's there.
We're so dramatic. It's okay. So here in the UK, here in Northern Ireland, we actually closed up shop about a week and a half to 2 weeks before the rest of the UK. So we're actually sitting pretty good. If you're friends with me on Facebook, I shared someone's status with a whole lot of charts and stats that we've actually done very well, like the Republic of Ireland, like the South, in flattening the curve. So we're sitting pretty here, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So really, like, all I do is I go out super early in the morning and I go walk by the river. I've seen an otter 2 times, and today I saw the largest woodlouse I've ever seen.
What do Americans call a woodlouse?
Well, it depends regionally. Like, in Philly we used to say potato bug, but some people say pill bug or roly-poly. But, yeah, it was big. It's about like, it looked like a trilobite. I got a picture of it and put it on YouTube. Or on Facebook.
And in case you're wondering, we've made plans to film a couple of Haggans in the flat. The audio will be terrible in comparison. I'm probably going to have to sit on the floor in the kitchen.
That's the room over there. It's like all one big... Our flat is like basically you come in, there's a corridor, there's a bedroom, really wee bedroom here, there's a toilet, and then there's this kind of big room that it's not very big, but we kind of have like sectioned the main part of it off to like the TV area, the computer area, and then there's the kitchen over there, so...
Yeah, so I imagine in universe this is going to be Omega's flat. And
my beautiful flat.
I really need to work on the Terror episode 7. But first I need to finish a renegade content about Game of Thrones.
I've been working on my thesis.
Yes.
I'm playing the Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yes. And The Witcher.
Yeah, but I was basically... Oh, this is so stupid. So I actually played Witcher like about several months ago, and... See, I started playing it when the show came out, because I'd read a few of the short stories, but like, you know what? I've tried so many times to get into Witcher 3. I want to watch the series. I'm going to try one more time, and this time finally took, but I made a mistake because I was drinking one night, and I left Skellige before doing a quest for Yennefer, and so I failed that mission, and now I can't romance her, and I'm like, no! In my canon, they are together! So I was actually replaying Witcher 3, so I could go back to the part at the end of the game, do that right, so I can romance Yennefer. Toss a coin to me.
I'm being double-timed. 2-timed. With a witch.
Well, you've been playing other stuff. Mortal Kombat. You've been having a very unique AI-driven Mortal Kombat experience. She discovered you can play Mortal Kombat, you can just let the computer do it, and you get, like, treats and prizes.
Yeah.
So, like, I'll look over, phone, laptop, doing 3 different things, occasionally pressing X for it. I'm like, you not only cheated the game, you cheated yourself.
You get all kinds of prizes. It's the best idea ever.
I feel like that should disqualify you from something. I'm telling Gamergate what you've done.
Anyway, we'll see you guys later.
Have fun. Keep yourselves safe. All of us, all of you who watch us, we care about you.
I don't know what the next vlog is going to be. If you're owed one,
Think of something.
If you're owed
Say
one,
something.
If you're owed one and you're a patron, please leave a comment, send me a message on Twitter, whatever, just to remind me, because I have a memory like a sieve.
So yeah, so say something, and we'll watch it.
Because, I do not want to miss anyone out. I'm just bad at this.
That's the brain thing. Be like, oh no, the joke is, oh no, it's a brain sucker. Oh, that's okay, it's starving. Oh, that's the joke from Elementary. What are you doing? Oh.
Bye.